Hey folks, and welcome back to another episode of your Brains Coach podcast. My name is Angela Shurina. I'm your host, I'm your Brains Coach, and it is my job here to bring to you all the best recent cutting edge science, brain body tools so you make your best decisions. You feel, look, and do your best. Folks, today we are finishing our conversation about brain-centered weight loss. And these episodes were designed based on the science that is now coming out or came out some time ago, but just like a lot of things in life, not evenly distributed. These episodes are also based on almost a decade of my experience working with physique athletes, people who make money like fitness model, for example, by adjusting their body composition, by designing, so to speak, their bodies or competing, etc. I also worked with athletes, CrossFit athletes, and arm wrestlers, people who also need to maintain certain weight or cut the weight to compete and, to get into the class that they need to get to have a better chance to win. And then I worked with a lot of people, entrepreneurs, professionals, women, men, helping them to change their body weight and maintain it for life. That's most important. I taught a lot of people those unknown or less known details and habits that help people to maintain weight naturally without having to go on any diets. Folks, the last time I was on any diet was, I think, several years ago, probably like 5-6 years ago, when I really started to apply everything that I learned from neuroscience and from weight loss research back then. And then after that, it just got better. We get so much research. And because I was in the field and I always kind of kept my hand on the pulse of the research, I just improved my practices, those practices that most people, you folks, don't even think about. And weight loss management became like a very easy thing. And I wish, I could just transfer everything that I know and all the experience into your head. But unfortunately, that cannot happen. Not yet. But, this is the best next thing, communicating that knowledge through stories, through research, giving you examples and practical tools so you could also benefit from this knowledge. Today, we are again finalizing our series on brain-centered weight loss. We did 5 of them. So please listen to all the episodes before we started with talking about how important it is to eat the essential nutrients, amount of proteins, essential fats, fiber, vitamins, minerals, how it affects your satiety and how much energy you have and how much weight you gain or lose or maintain. We then started talking about a low dopamine diet and how important it is to not eat drug-like foods that our food industry creates every single day. There is like new flavor of this or that, and that actually makes those food items drug-like items. Of course, they're not exactly like drugs with the addictive properties, let's say, of cocaine or something like that. They're not like cigarettes even, but they do have addictive properties. So we talked about that. We talked about how sleep and light are crucial for maintenance of your appetite or for not having cravings, especially for sweets, for carbs, and how also sleep and light exposure at specific times affect how your body metabolizes different nutrients, how your body releases insulin in response to food, how your body stores fat. And we talked about stress regulation and emotional regulation and how being in a stress state chronically will make you overeat and put on weight. How being in a state of stress actually turns off, at least from the mice study, turns off that center in the brain that regulates appetite, that makes you feel full, that makes you stop before you overeat to the point of weight gain that threatens your health and survival. Today, folks, we are going to be talking about mindful eating, and not just, some airy-fairy concept of mindful eating and why it's so good for you. But no, we're gonna talk about research-based mindful eating and why it's actually important to, for example, eat without distractions and how it affects your appetite and how down the line it affects your weight, either weight loss or weight gain. So back then in my weight loss coaching days, while working on my own weight, adjusting my body composition, I also prepared for competitions and did quite a few photo shoots. So back in those days, I started experimenting with different eating habits myself and then with my clients. And I noticed then when I eat without any distractions, without TV, without work, without talking to anyone, I would always stop much earlier. I would feel fuller much earlier. And it was easy for me to maintain the body weight that I wanted to maintain or to lose weight if I was preparing for a photo shoot or a competition. And I'm like, that works. And then I experiment with my clients and it worked for them too. I'm like, that's interesting. Let's keep it. But now research that we have actually confirms that people, when we're distracted, we eat more for that meal that is in front of us and then later in the day. So our brain helps us it's one of the our brain, first of all, it accumulates all the information from all the sensory organs. And we have neurons and sensory neurons and so to speak sensory system in our gut as well. And all along our digestive tract from our mouth all the way back down. And then, of course, we have our eyes and we have our mouth gathering all this sensory information. And we have our nose that, smells the food. All of this information gives our brain a better idea what's on our plate, what we are about to consume, how many calories that stuff have. And based on that, our brain starts releasing certain enzymes, or giving signals to our digestive system to start releasing certain digestive enzymes to metabolize our food. And also that's how our brain gets satiety signal. It is also said and has been shown in studies that our brain, it takes about 20 minutes to get the satiety signal that we actually eaten such and such food stuff, and it has possibly those kind of nutrients and caloric density. But we're going to talk about the timing a little bit later. What I want you to read, what I want to share with you is this meta-analysis of studies. Meta-analysis, folks, means that they did a bunch of studies, and meta-analysis just analyzed all of these studies and created sort of a conclusion based on all of these studies that they analyzed and wrote a review, so to speak. So meta-analysis of studies, right? Distracted eating may add to weight gain. So what does it all mean? The bottom line from a report published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, a team from the University of Birmingham in the United Kingdom scored the medical literature for studies that have looked at how attention and memory affect food intake. All of these studies had at least two groups, such as one group that ate a particular meal while watching television and another that ate the same meal without television. These studies point to two key conclusions. Being distracted or not paying attention to a meal tended to make people eat more at that meal. Paying attention to a meal was linked to eating less later on. So, same people ate meals. One group was watching television, the other group wasn't. And at that meal, people who watched television, they ate more. People who didn't watch ate less. But then paying attention to that meal, so people who didn't watch television also ate less during the rest of the day. Now, here is another meta-analysis that is from, it's PubMed, National Library of Medicine, NIH, that is from the US. Eating attentively, a systematic review and meta-analysis of the effect of food intake, memory, and awareness on eating. So results. Evidence indicates that attentive eating is likely to influence food intake, and incorporation of attentive eating principles, so basically mindful eating, into interventions provides a novel approach to aid weight loss and maintenance without the need of conscious calorie counting. So 24 studies were reviewed. Evidence indicated that eating when distracted produced a moderate increase in immediate intake, but increased a later intake to a greater extent. So translating all this boring scientific literature, this meta-analysis of 24 studies showed that when people ate distracted, they ate more at that meal and then ate even more later during the day. Now, why all of that is happening? Because when your brain cannot multitask, folks, and eating and doing something else is multitasking. You are directing a lot of your attention, a lot of your sensory processing machinery to something else, like television, or maybe your work. Not only that, especially when you work, a lot of that blood flow goes from your stomach to your brain, and also you elevate your own stress response that further makes your digestion more difficult, challenging. Your brain, your body, this whole organism, this whole system cannot do two of those things effectively. Your brain requires 20% of your energy, a lot of blood flow to function. So when you work on something, like you sit in your office, maybe at home, and you are having your lunch or dinner or breakfast while working, you compromise your digestion. You're gonna have more problems, like maybe feeling stuffy or like food didn't exactly digest that well. Not only that, you're gonna feel hungrier. You're gonna eat more at that meal, and it's gonna be harder for you to stop. And after that meal, during the day, you're also gonna eat more. And so if you're trying to maintain and lose weight, it's not in your interest to eat distracted. Your digestion gonna be worse. You're not gonna feel that great. You're gonna feel sluggish. You're gonna feel lower in energy, and that also will add to the stress of this weight loss or to the difficulty on weight maintenance. But not only that, your hunger is going to be upregulated. Your brain literally doesn't register all that food while you're busy doing something else, while you're busy watching television or while you're busy working. Your brain cannot multitask. So when you ask your brain to digest, analyze your food, to regulate your hunger response, and at the same time working or watching television, that's not going to happen. Something gonna give, and usually that's something is your digestion and your appetite control. So what's the takeaway from that? When you eat, just eat. When I took people through 12-week weight loss ideal body weight program, and we learned all these habits, so as soon as possible, I introduced this idea of, for the next 12 weeks, you're not gonna watch television while eating. When you eat, just eat. But people are like, I don't have time. Well, set the priorities. You either don't have time for your health, for your ideal body weight, for your good digestion and your gut health, or you don't have or you reorganize your life and plan things better and eat like, normal human being. Just eat, chew your food, pay attention. In Russia, we have this saying, when I eat, I'm deaf and, what do you call it? And I can't speak. And that's because this idea of eating not distracted and the benefits of it, people probably noticed a long time ago. It just now we have studies that yes, people indeed do eat more. And also there is research that your digestion doesn't work that well because again, blood flow goes to your brain from your digestive system, and you don't release as many needed digestive juices. You don't release certain hormones, certain things that you're supposed to release, and then that blood flow doesn't allow the proper absorption and metabolism of nutrients. So that's number one, about mindful eating. Why and what mindful eating is all about? Number one, paying attention to what you eat, not to the television or not to some work. And then back to this idea of it takes 20 minutes for your brain to register what you ate. And so if you want to maintain your body weight, if you want to lose weight, you want to increase satiety as much as possible. And to do so, you need to slow down your eating. So that's the second part of mindful eating. And I want to read you something fascinating. As every delicious, wouldn't it be great if there were a food you could eat endlessly without worrying about fat? As every delicious, perfect bite melted in your mouth, so did the calories. Like, wouldn't this be perfect? Painstakingly researched by food scientists, certain snacks and foods trick your brain into thinking those foods have no calories. Listen again. Certain snacks and foods trick your brain into thinking those foods have no calories. First brought to light by food scientist Stephen Witherly, this phenomenon is called vanishing caloric density. Here is how it works. Witherly describes Cheetos as the perfect example of vanishing caloric density food. Besides the fact that they taste awesome, Cheetos have an interesting texture and construction that makes them melt in your mouth. When a food melts down quickly in the mouth, your brain interprets the food as having no calories. Yes, folks, you heard it right. Your brain interprets the food as having no calories. As if once the food has disappeared, so have the calories. And this is why you keep eating Cheetos for a long time without feeling full. The takeaway from this, not only that Cheetos will make you eat more of them because they melt in your mouth and they literally for your brain feel like no food at all, even though the pack, like what are the calories of Cheetos? So let me do a little bit of research. Cheetos, how many calories? Calories as packaged 160 calories. I guess that per package. How many calories in one Cheeto? 20 calories. So one Cheeto has 20 calories. A whole bag probably, again, has a lot more of those calories. But your brain doesn't register them because of this vanishing caloric density. Isn't that interesting? But back to the point, what based on those studies I taught myself and my clients. During that 12-week weight loss course or ideal body weight for life, I taught folks, we did the experiment. I told them, no smoothies, no powdered, pureed, liquid calories, none of them. All of the calories that you're going to consume for the next 3 months are going to be the calories that you chew. The longer, the better. And if you're feeling like you have a little bit of hunger, then you're going to eat something that you have to chew, like carrots, like some piece of meat, piece of chicken. You want to increase the amount of time it takes you to chew your food. If you're the fan of smoothies for the next months, instead of drinking that smoothie, you're going to figure out how to eat that smoothie. So you want to eat your bananas, eat your blueberries, make a salad out of your greens. So we have to kind of relearn that. But all of that was for the experiment. And folks were so surprised. They're like, I usually would put in my smoothie like avocado and then a couple of bananas and this and that. And now I started chewing that and I could barely like finish half of what I would put in my blender. And of course, that is true. Chewing increases your satiety, and no chewing can melting in your mouth or drinking your calories like you would in juice or smoothies or any sorts of, liquid calories, like even nut milk. I'm not saying nut milk is bad, but if your goal is to reduce calories, you want to chew as many of those calories as you can. And that brings another point that I always tell my clients, no oil cooking. That was another experiment. You see, folks, when you cook with oil, your food absorbs that oil and it increases its caloric density, but your brain doesn't actually register that because you don't see that. You don't chew that. And that's how it's so easy to pack on those calories without triggering more satiety. When you cook with oil and food absorbs this oil, and that's why restaurant meals are so fattening, because they cook that in so much oil and food absorbs so many more calories. Like you eat the same meal, but actually it has so many more calories that you don't see and your brain doesn't register. So when your brain doesn't chew the calories, it doesn't really register them. Any sort of liquid calories, pureed calories, the faster you consume those calories, the less your brain registers them. So that's what we conclude from these studies. The brain is this sensory organ that helps your gut, that takes information from all the sensory organs, and it helps the gut to first of all digest food, to absorb the nutrients, but also the brain is where satiety triggered. Your hormones that make you feel full, like leptin, your hormones that make you feel hungry, like ghrelin. And if your brain makes mistake because you juiced your food, because you make it, added oil that was absorbed by food, the less chewing, the less good of a job your brain does registering those calories. And so when you start chewing your food, and instead of using your fat calories as oil, instead you get some nuts and seeds and eat your avocados, if you do that, your brain will tell you that you're full much sooner. So that is the cool thing, as something that you can start practicing. Just start chewing your food more. Of course, paying attention, not watching TV, not working. And I want to share with you something also interesting about the brain and how what you think affects your appetite. So there was a study at some point when they took participants and they connected like a soup pan or big bowl somewhere where participants didn't see it, so they connected it with a cord to a soup plate that was in front of a participant. So basically participants didn't know that the soup bowl was bottomless. Like no matter how much they ate, there was a top up they didn't see, and they would just eat and eat and eat that soup. And other participants had a normal bowl, just where you eat and it actually finished very soon. So they did this research that people who ate from a bottomless soup bowl, despite consuming 73% more, those participants eating from the self-refilling bowls did not believe themselves to have consumed any more soup than those in the control condition with the normal soup bowl. So what it tells you is that if our brain doesn't register visually, for example, like in the case of soup bowls, that you consumed more, your brain will not turn on hunger response more than it would for a normal bowl of soup. So that's why you want to eat mindfully, to help your brain as much as possible to control your hunger naturally and to stop you from eating before you're in the zone of weight gain. If you want to maximize your satiety and make maintenance of your body weight as easy as possible, you want to pay attention to your food, you want to chew your food. And yes, by paying attention to your food, you will help your brain to make you feel fuller sooner. And then the third aspect of mindful eating, and there's going to be an exercise, is lowering your stress response, is lowering your stress levels before you eat. You see, as we learned already on this podcast a couple of episodes ago, stress has this ability of messing up our satiety responses, our fullness responses. And it seems like the more we're stressed, the more chronically we're stressed, the less efficient our satiety signals are, meaning we kind of don't feel full. We just want to eat and eat and eat. Again, the more stress we experience, that seems to be the case. Some people tend to eat less, but usually in our society, it's eating more. That's what chronic stress does to the brain and to the body. It literally kind of switches off the centers of the brain that turn on satiety. And yeah, of course, long term, you want to figure out how to control your stress. You want to figure out how to reframe things, how to perhaps have sufficient recovery and different methodologies, again, to maintain lower stress levels. And there are a lot that are very effective. But right before your meal, what you can do really quickly, and it's actually one of the most effective strategies to change your body from the state of fight or flight and stress to rest and digest. Turning on your parasympathetic nervous system, the one that is of rest and digest and calm and not being stressed. So the very simple thing you can do, and I mentioned this exercise so many times on this podcast, physiological sigh. Also just exhale focused breathing. Physiological sigh, if you know Andrew Huberman, you know what I'm talking about. Double inhale and then long exhale. So it sounds like this. That actually turns off, so to speak, your stress almost immediately. 2-3 cycles of breath like that, and you are in a parasympathetic mode of your nervous system. You are not that stressed anymore. And when you are in that state, you pay attention to what you eat, and your brain has a much easier job at turning on satiety signals exactly when you need them, when you're full, when you had enough. And not only that, but your body, actually, your digestive system metabolizes nutrients in a different way when you are stressed and when you are at rest. Your insulin release is different, and your blood sugar regulation is different, and how your brain again switches on and off the satiety signals, the hunger signals also is different, and how your body distributes that fuel that you consume is also different. And also in a stress state, actually, your blood flow goes to your limbs, to your brain, to make you ready to fight and flight and run. And that is the worst thing you can do for your digestion. Because in order to, again, absorb the nutrients into your bloodstream, to use those nutrients, you need that blood flow by your digestive system, not somewhere else, like your, again, limbs and your brain. So again, that's why also working while eating is not great. Again, that blood flow, but then also that satiety signal that will arrive much, much later, if ever. That's why it's very important to, again, learn how to manage stress on a regular basis so you're not in a state of chronic stress, but then also right before food to improve your digestion, to improve your satiety signaling so you feel fuller, faster, and you don't feel like you need to finish it all and you're like always hungry even though, you just had a meal. So in order for all of that not to happen and have, again, the feeling of fullness sooner, and then also to have proper digestion and absorb all the nutrients, just do 3 physiological sigh breath, or just, again, exhale focused breathing when you breathe in, for example, for a count of 4, and you breathe out for a count of 8. So you make your breath out longer, twice or even longer. But physiological sigh, I think it's just neat thing that very specific you can learn and do. And it seems to be the most effective way to switch your nervous system from the state of stress to the state of rest and digest. Again, physiological sigh. YouTube it, Andrew Huberman physiological sigh, and you'll see the video. And that's it for today, folks. I guess the last point I wanted to add here, if you want to help your brain to maintain eating habits that allow you to maintain your ideal body weight, you want to first and foremost design your environment, your home, where you work, all the environments where you spend a lot of time. You want to design your environments to support your eating habits. So put healthy food in your fridge. Don't have snacks in your house. If you want to have a dessert, have it out. Go to a cafe, I don't know, with friends, with family. Design your environment. So in your immediate environment, you're never reminded about any foods that you don't want to eat. Delete the delivery apps from your phone. If it's at work, at least don't have the food that you don't want to eat out, and ask perhaps people to put it somewhere in the kitchen area. They did also a lot of studies that when you just put candy in a cupboard, people eat much less than when it's out in the open. What you see is what you get, but also your brain is always scanning environment for possible like food sources, nutrient sources, and what your brain see, you also start thinking about it, and eventually you start eating that. So just be aware of that. Also about the advertising that you watch. Don't watch that much food advertising. And perhaps if you don't want to eat a lot of baked stuff, don't walk around bakeries. Smell is a very powerful trigger of hunger and satiety. So all of these things work. And as Alex Hormozy also says, like on his podcast, that he never uses his willpower like a lot of successful people who succeed with different habits. He just organizes his environment so it's easy for him to do what he needs to do, like having his protein ready to go as a shake or prepared foods or meals, having his supplements where he gets his work done or where he drinks his water, etc. So organize your environment to support your habits. That's how you make it easy, and that's how you start, stop struggling with your willpower, thinking that, what's wrong with me? I can't stop eating. Well, maybe you just don't use the smart strategies. So environment, powerful thing. Folks, this concludes our series on brain-centered weight loss, brain-centered ideal body weight. Listen to all these episodes, from eating essential nutrients to sleep and light exposure to eating low dopamine diet to managing your emotions and stress. So listen to all of these episodes, and once you put each of them into practice, you'll be surprised how easy it is, even in our environment where there are so many temptations everywhere. You'll learn how actually easy it is to maintain the habits that you need to stay in your ideal body weight when you start designing for your brain, not against your brain. If you have any questions, please reach out. If you'd like to go through a session or perhaps all 12 weeks of this coaching program, also let me know. Angela@brainbreakthroughcoach.com, Angela@brainbreakthroughcoach.com. I believe in our environment, it's not yet well communicated that actually your weight loss or weight gain is all in your brain. And once you start again designing with that knowledge in mind, that's when you start getting real results that stay. Then also, of course, if you just change everything and you start again eating mindlessly and you put stuff in your home that you don't want to eat and you don't manage your stress and you eat a lot of highly palatable and rewarding foods, of course that system gonna break again. So use these strategies as often as possible. If you need help, please do reach out. If you're curious, if you want to kind of dial in your nutrition as well, Angela@brainbreakthroughcoach.com. I'm a nutritionist, nutrition and weight loss coach. Share this episode, folks. The most important thing, share this episode. You don't teach it to your friends, to your family, to your loved ones who might be struggling with their weight and they don't understand how it all works. Share that with them. Share this podcast episode series, share this knowledge through telling them about that. And by the way, sharing this podcast will work actually better because very often our loved ones, our friends, our family are a little bit on defense. When you tell them, it feels a little bit judgmental. But when you give them something to listen or share, just, I listened to this cool podcast, check it out. I found this very fascinating and interesting. They actually are much less resistant to the information that they hear because it's going to feel like it's coming from them, not from you, not like you telling them what to do. So just another piece of knowledge to overcome resistance to your own advice and tips. That's it, folks. Not gonna hold you any longer. Enjoy your day, whether that's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Use smarter strategies to help your brain to keep you in your ideal body weight. If you have questions, please reach out, share this episode. And until next time, folks, stay smart, stay tuned, and work with your brain, not against it.